A lot of those old mainstays have come back, but also there's elements of last year's format in it too. The Mega Pokemon, predictably very strong. And there's some other cool Pokemon that got a lot better that I didn't think were that good in 2013. I see both these players using both Gengar and Suicune, which are both kind of mediocre in 2013, but because of the changes since then, they're both great now.
Yeah, they got some really cool new tricks to play with, and it looks like we're going to see some of them right away. Kevin, again, at the top of your screen, throws out his Gengar and his Thundurus for his leads. He will be up against Aaron's Venusaur and Gengar. So Gengar mirrors here. Going to be interesting to see how that works out, whether they've trained them fully in speed. We might see some speed shenanigans coming out there. Of course, Kevin does have that Thundurus out as well to provide some additional speed control. Of course, being able to use that Prankster Thunder Wave is huge.
Yeah, I think seeing the two Gengars face up against each other is pretty interesting too. Gengar's a Pokemon that has a lot of moves it needs, and it almost always cuts Protect to make room for other moves, which is dangerous when you've got two Ghost-type Pokemon here, with Ghost being super effective against Ghost. They're both very dangerous to one another, but also another move that sometimes gets cut is Shadow Ball, so depending on what moves each trainer's decided to use here, this could be a very different situation.
Yeah, we'll see what they both chose to use. Aaron's Venusaur is going to Mega Evolve and use Sludge Bomb right away. Gengar is, that is, going to target the Thundurus. Will deal some good damage, over 50%, proccing Thundurus' Citrus Berry. Going to heal it right back up. But Kevin's Gengar did not forego that Shadow Ball and is going to connect with Aaron's, but it will hold on at 1 HP using that Focus Sash. Of course, that item allows you to protect from one attack that would have KO'd, but of course it does not do two, so Kevin's Thundurus will be able to pick up a quick KO onto that Gengar. While Venusaur is going to try to Sludge Bomb the Thundurus as well, it's not going to be enough, but does get a Poison, so does get a little bit of extra chip damage, and that's a really big threat, that Thundurus that's really weak right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Aaron's not super excited about going down 3-4 in the first turn there, but with that Poison on Thundurus, it basically does even out the game. I like the move from Kevin's side. I mentioned before that Gengar often doesn't have room for that Protect, and Aaron's Gengar just, similarly doesn't have that Protect. So by double targeting it, you're probably going to get some damage that turn. Unlike Kevin, his Gengar also traditionally doesn't use that Shadow Ball. So he knew he was relatively safe with his own Gengar there, where it was unlikely that Aaron had the same opportunity to make the play that he did. So it was a pretty safe way to guarantee that he was going to go up a knockout early, but the danger of that, of course, is now that Thundurus is sitting duck. Only one turn until Poison's going to knock it out now. So he's got to find a way to avoid just letting Aaron trade back into an advantageous position here. He does have the option of switching because Thundurus is at least hanging on for now. Maybe you want to switch that in again later just to take a hit. But now the shoe's kind of on the other foot because it's its own Gengar. It's has those weaknesses of not being able to protect.
Yeah. And you see that Aaron's team does not have those weaknesses anymore now that Gengar is off the field. Terrakion and Mega Venusaur both protecting, just going to go ahead and let the Thundurus faint to the Poison. Of course, the Protect blocks all of the attacks from Kevin's Gengar and the Taunt from Thundurus. So there's the Poison ticking down on Thundurus, picks up the KO, and we're back down to 3-on-3.
Yeah, good safe turn by Aaron there. He takes that free knockout, doesn't take any risks there. Lots of things that could have happened there. I mean, the taunted Venusaur would have been very bad, and not being able to protect there makes it much easier to focus down that bulky Mega. And also, Icy Wind hitting there would have vastly hurt his position there with both those Pokemon, then being much slower than Kevin's remaining Pokemon. So smart of him just to not do anything foolish there and try to get some damage that maybe he didn't really need in an exchange board position for it. So he ends up in a pretty good spot here. Sort of, I guess. I mean, Terrakion obviously isn't going to like either of these Pokemon very much. I think Aaron is probably hoping to face off against a different Pokemon than what he got here. It's a really tough matchup for it. But also, he's trying to figure out what moves Gengar has here. Often it has a Will-O-Wisp, which would actually be pretty bad for both these Pokemon. Taunted Venusaur, again, would be bad. A big part of the strength of Venusaur as a Mega is its recovery and its bulk. It's like Protect is a big deal. Just keeps stalling out. Often has Leech Seed. So when you can't use Protect, when you can't use that Leech Seed, you just have to sit there and attack. It really takes away a lot of what it does well.
Yeah, and we are going to see Terrakion, as you accurately predicted, does not like either of these Pokemon. Switches out for the Suicune, one of my favorite Pokemon. Gengar does decide to go on the offensive, though, going to use that Shadow Ball on the Mega Venusaur. Earthquake coming out from Garchomp on Kevin's side, going to deal some decent damage to that Venusaur, and a little bit to Suicune, too. Of course, both of these Pokemon very bulky, very well known for just being around, able to take hits non-stop. Especially now Venusaur using the Giga Drain, going to deal some damage and heal back up. So Venusaur, it got double targeted that turn, and it's not looking too bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting worn down here. It definitely can't take another turn of that, but now the situation, at least for Aaron's, a little bit more interesting. Suicune, one of the reasons it's used now is that it has a Tailwind, which I mean it always had before, but I think with the power of Mega has gotten a little bit more popular. But 85% of Suicune are using Tailwind and Battle Spot now, so at least there's that threat from Suicune now. But if it gets the Tailwind up, it can allow its friends to outrun Garchomp and Gengar, which otherwise we're creating a lot of problems here, and maybe start picking up some knockouts. Unfortunately for Aaron, Kevin's equally aware of this, also using Suicune, and wouldn't be too surprised to see a taunt coming in there to shut down that plan.
Yeah, we'll see if Kevin will be able to taunt off that Suicune, protect from Mega Venusaur. Kevin accurately predicting that goes for the Sludge Bomb on Suicune, gets the critical hit and a poison. Both two of the worst things that could happen to Suicune. Of course, Suicune will be able to heal up a little bit with the Citrus Berry, but not going to like that poison damage. And the Dragon Claw coming out from Garchomp, will it pick up the KO? No! Suicune survives with just a sliver of health there and gets the Tailwind off. So, worse for the wear, gets the Tailwind off, does manage to survive a critical hit and another Dragon Claw from Garchomp. Unfortunately, that poison, just a little bit too much, gets the KO in the end.
Yeah, that's a pretty big knockout, too. Having Suicune around just a little bit longer to help wear down that Garchomp, maybe break the probable Focus Sash on Gengar, could have been really helpful there. I think a great move on Kevin's side, obviously. He did expect that Tailwind. Perhaps Taunt was one of the moves that he dropped. Again, same issue that Aaron has, just too many moves for too few slots there. But really nice play there on his side to punish Aaron for the Tailwind he had to take. He didn't really have an option there. He had to get it up there to at least have a chance, but things are pretty rough for him now. Venusaur now should be quicker than both Pokemon. Terrakion easily faster, so you can knock out either target here with a double target, but like a combination of Rock Slide, actually, it's only Rock Slide and Garchomp isn't going to be enough, so he's got to worry about that. He can't take another Earthquake at this point. So, will Garchomp protect? Should he double target Gengar as a result? Looks like that's what he's going for here.
Yeah, well, Garchomp doesn't protect, neither does Gengar, but you don't need protect if you can just avoid the Rock Slide. So Gengar not taking any damage. Garchomp does take the Rock Slide. Aaron does decide to double up on that Garchomp slot, does get the KO using the Giga Drain, so is going to be able to get a little bit of momentum back, but that miss on Gengar really hurts. Won't be able to break the most likely Focus Sash, and you have to take that Shadow Ball damage and the special defense drop there too, which probably not that big, but depending on what's in the back for Kevin, could be pretty huge. And speaking of huge, Kangaskhan, one of the top threats from last year, back on the field. Not leading this time, Kevin saving it for last.
Yeah, we see a lot more of that last Pokemon Kangaskhan this year. A little bit better at cleaning up. One thing that I guess is good for, both good and bad for Aaron here. I mean, at least he's got that Tailwind up. He's got Terrakion, which is very popular this year. It might be the most popular legendary Pokemon now because it deals with Kangaskhan so well, but he's probably going to need to double protect here, Aaron is, because of the threat of the fake out from that Kangaskhan, and waste those valuable Tailwind turns. Like, if he's not at a decent lead when Tailwind ends, he's definitely going to lose this game. Kangaskhan can close out the Venusaur pretty easily there, so it's just a matter of trying to get Terrakion to survive long enough to knock out Kangaskhan and give him a shot here. And it's a very precarious position here with Rock Slide having not broken that Gengar's Focus Sash last turn.
Yeah, Aaron's going to need a lot of help here. Kevin's Kangaskhan is going to Mega Evolve into that Mega Kangaskhan. Protect coming out from Terrakion. Is the Venusaur also going to protect here? Yes, Aaron's going for the double protect, going to just make this a wasted turn. Loses one turn of Tailwind, doesn't take any damage, doesn't have to worry about the fake out, which wasn't coming anyway. The power-up punch from Kevin there, hoping to catch someone sleeping.
Yeah, I mean, not a bad play there. There wasn't a whole lot to gain from attacking that slot. He could have knocked out Venusaur there if it had chosen not to protect, but Venusaur isn't the big threat here. Terrakion is, so I guess we'll see some interesting information here. I really like, if Kevin has fake out, his choice not to use it that turn, because Aaron's got to be a little bit concerned now, because there's a chance that it's carrying protect instead of fake out, and if he attacks into a protect now, he will almost definitely lose because of it. So that makes this decision for Aaron really tricky. If he does think that Kangaskhan has protect, he could try to double target Gengar and get rid of it before the Tailwind expires here, and then close out the game with Terrakion. So it keeps the decisions interesting for him. If Kangaskhan doesn't have protect, a close combat in that slot, and Venusaur attacking here will probably close the game out, but that's not what we see.
Nope, Aaron's going for the Rock Slide. When in doubt, just use Rock Slide. And Leech Seed coming out from Venusaur really needs a flinch here from that Rock Slide. Will it be able to pick it up? No, Gengar does get the Shadow Ball off. Who is it targeting? Is going to target Terrakion, is going to pick up that KO. And now it's just Kangaskhan up against Venusaur. Kangaskhan is going to go for the attack, gets the return off. No flinches from the Rock Slide. 2 hits in the return. Venusaur just barely hanging on with another critical hit. Going to be able to get some health back from that Leech Seed, but this is just too much to handle right now.
Yeah, been a rough game for Aaron to try to play here. He's
Yeah.
seen that critical hit text a few times here. And now with Venusaur at low health and Kangaskhan perfectly healthy, looks like this game's probably over for Aaron there. Nice play on both sides, though. I think Kevin made a great prediction there. Assuming he does have that fake out set, I think playing it the way he did, he got Aaron to bite, and he managed that really well. He saw the double target onto Suicune, and so very cleverly played game by Kevin here.
Yeah, definitely a very strong game here for Kevin. The Protect does come back out from Venusaur here, just trying to get as much health as possible. Right now, Aaron could potentially hope to get some nice Protect rolls. Tries again, doesn't get it. Protect fails. Gengar's Shadow Ball should be able to pick up this final KO. There's the handshake. Kevin Fisher takes down Aaron Zhang and will be continuing on. Of course, both of these players continuing on, but taking that second loss is really, really hard.
Yeah, it definitely puts Aaron in a tough spot here, and even if he wins out now, there's a chance he won't be able to make the top cut. He does get better championship points.
Her team coming up here in just a moment for team preview. She is running Metagross, Thundurus, Milotic, Heatran, Greninja, and Virizion. Greninja, interesting choice. I haven't seen too much of Greninja. And of course, she will be playing up against Jake Muller at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of excited to see some of these Pokemon on Tiffany's team. I've actually battled her using this team twice, but I've never seen a couple of these Pokemon. The Greninja, I'm not quite sure what it does, so I'm kind of excited to see that. I'm also really pleased to see that she's still using Virizion. I know it was one of her favorite Pokemon back in 2013, and I think that's kind of another one of those things that goes with what we were saying before, where people's gonna have to find that style that works for them, find the sort of things that they're good at. And this is a Pokemon she has a lot of experience with. She uses it very well, and it's just nice to see that. She's found her way in this format, and she's doing very well in this tournament, right? So I mean,
yeah,
you can see the benefits of that.
And she will be going up against Jake Muller. Jake is using Hydreigon, Metagross, Landorus, Ludicolo, Terrakion, and Thundurus. I really like this team because Ludicolo is being used without a Politoed. Where's the rain? The weather went away. We saw a lot of rain last year, less so this year, but we are going to hop right into game right now. Top of your screen, that's Tiffany Stanley. Bottom of your screen is Jake Muller. You have Tiffany leading with that Milotic and Metagross, and Jake going with the Thundurus and Metagross as well. Another mirror lead, but this time Metagross instead of Gengar's.
Yeah, it's kind of a surprising mirror to see, actually. Last year, the whole National Dex format didn't get played too much in North America, but Japan was playing a lot of it. And Metagross is widely considered to be a lot worse than it was in 2013, right? So we're seeing it again this year because of that Mega Evolution. I'd be very surprised if both of these Metagross weren't Megas, just because, like I said, it'd kind of fallen off a bit afterward. And we do see the Mega Evolution starting here.
Yeah, Mega Metagross starting up for Jake. Of course, the X Factor is on the field. You can see both Metagrosses are going to go ahead and Mega Evolve. So two Megagrosses on the field now. Probably interesting to have that Thundurus for Jake giving the support of potentially speed control, but instead going to opt for just straight offense with the Thunderbolt onto Milotic and Substitute coming out from Jake's Megagross. Going to hide behind that Substitute. Take any damage that would be thrown its way as Ice Punch comes out from the Metagross onto Thundurus. Not enough to pick up the KO. Citrus Berry going to heal up a little bit. Of course, a Mega Metagross is going to deal a whole lot of damage once Mega Evolving. Icy Wind back out from Milotic. Isn't going to be able to pick up the KO onto the Thundurus, even if it gets that critical hit. Will get the speed drop, but that Substitute protecting it, protecting Jake's Metagross. Well, try saying that anytime.
Yeah.
From that speed loss as well.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool. I've never seen Substitute on Mega Metagross before, but it kind of makes sense, right?
Makes a lot of sense.
One of the strengths of Metagross before was that clear body ability to avoid stat drops, and you kind of get that same benefit from Substitute.
Even better because you can avoid status too. Unfortunately, Tiffany does not have that, so does take that Thunder Wave from Jake's Thundurus. Zen Headbutt coming out from Jake's Metagross as well, going to pick up the KO onto Milotic. So Tiffany's just left with a paralyzed Metagross and not going to be able to do anything about it.
Yeah, tough break for Tiffany there. Without that paralysis, either Metagross would be likely losing in Substitute there, or Thundurus would have gone down there to trade the knockouts. But even ignoring that, a nice job by Jake to get in this position here. Having that Substitute on his Metagross versus Tiffany's being paralyzed would have been a big advantage in its own right.
And it's a very defensive Mega Metagross, using the Protect behind the Substitute as well. Wants to keep that Substitute up as long as possible. Heatran is going to get the Heat Wave off before Thundurus can move. Will be able to pick up the KO on Thundurus. Not going to deal any damage to the Substitute thanks to the Protect, but is going to pick up an important KO. And of course, Tiffany's Mega Metagross has nothing to do.
Yeah, so interesting play there. I guess in spite of Thundurus probably getting to survive an extra turn because of the paralysis there, it's all evened out now anyway. So interesting choices by both players in the Metagrosses here. One of the things that makes Metagross really dangerous is it has a great move pool. It's not super, super large, but it gets kind of all the right moves. So there's a lot of different things you can do with it. You know, it gets that Ice Punch like we saw, but also, you know, has more defensive options like Substitute too. So they're both kind of choosing what they think is more important there. So sort of interesting to see the difference in that.
Definitely. Both of these players playing pretty quickly, too. Terrakion now on the field, going to threaten that Heatran, which is protecting itself away. Great prediction from Jake. Does not fall for the Protect from Heatran. Gets the close combat off onto the Mega Metagross on Tiffany's side, as well as the Iron Head into Flinch, plus the Paralysis. That Mega Metagross is looking pretty sad.
Yeah, I mean, tough break for a sort of, but smart play on Jake's end there. You know, he's got the 30% chance to flinch with Iron Head, you know, the 25% chance to flinch with the Paralysis there. So he's just kind of, you know, stacking his odds as much as he can there, knowing that she's probably not just going to let Heatran get blown up by the close combat.
Definitely. And Heatran is going to run away for this turn, switched out for the Greninja. See if Greninja can be what Tiffany needs to bring this one back. Protect comes out from Jake's Mega Metagross as close combat does come off from Terrakion again and picks up the KO on that Mega Metagross. Of these two, both of these Mega Metagrosses haven't really dealt that much damage, but just the pressure that Jake's is putting on the field behind that sub using that Protect is just completely outmatched Tiffany's.
Yeah, I mean, they're certainly getting a lot of attention, right? Most of the attacks on both sides have been targeted at them, but that's a threat of Substitute sometimes, that you get so much pressure that it creates room for your teammates. You know, a Terrakion, one of the best offensive Pokemon in this metagame, so by having, you know, Metagross just sitting there, you know, deflecting attention, Terrakion's getting a bunch of free close combats off there. You know, got a knockout there. He's got two Pokemon out now that really don't want to take a close combat, so now Terrakion's putting a bunch of pressure on the field. Really difficult situation for Tiffany. Yeah,
and Terrakion is going to protect while Low Kick comes out from Greninja. Greninja is now the fighting type, even though that attack did not go off. Of course, the KO with a critical hit from Jake's Mega Metagross. It doesn't attack that often, but when it does, it counts. Heat Wave does go into the Protect from Terrakion, and it will hit Jake's Mega Metagross this time, will be able to break that Substitute. So now, for the first time in this game since turn 1, Jake's Mega Metagross is vulnerable.
Yeah, well, not too vulnerable with Terrakion out there against Heatran. I don't know how much that critical hit ended up mattering. We kind of see the downfall of Protean there with the Dark type being removed and taking away that resistance, but an excellent game there by Jake, and he takes a big win.
Yeah, clean win, 3-0. Of course, the match forfeited right there at the end. Really strong play there. I am really excited.
Make a move you shouldn't. Suddenly you're struggling against this team. Literally struggle. And you know, it's pretty difficult to handle, right? A lot of teams, especially slower teams, just don't deal with that very well. And there's a bunch of other Pokemon we kind of seen similarly in that regard. We saw Lapras with Mega Gengar at U.S. Nationals. It got top 4 last year. So another like a very uncommon duo, but something we've seen work before, and something we saw at Nationals that year that most players just didn't have a great solution for again. So
definitely.
Definitely going to be a tricky match here where you see the more standard team trying to see if it can avoid being tripped up by all the tricks that Whitney's bringing here.
Well, it looks like Whitney has decided to keep the tricks up his sleeve as we have Scizor and Landorus out on the field. Here's all that Intimidate we were talking about earlier, up against Justin's Heatran and Landorus. So Whitney getting the worst of this with Scizor not going to want to be intimidated. It really relies on its attack stat. Heatran switching out for Wash Rotom as Feint comes out from Scizor, trying to predict a Protect from that Heatran. Probably incoming Earthquake from Landorus. Yep. Not going to be dealing any damage to Justin, but dealing a significant amount to that Scizor.
Yeah, I feel bad there. Like a wonderfully tricky play there.
Went for the play, didn't quite make it. Rock Slide coming out from Justin is going to deal some good damage. Scizor, you know, it's still around. Taking an Earthquake isn't the end of the world for Scizor, but you definitely don't want to give up free damage like that.
I mean, yeah, this is a really bad position for Whitney. Both Pokemon intimidated. Wash Rotom out there, which just very, very good against Landorus. I love the play there, even though it didn't pay off. You know Heatran's either going to protect or switch, right? So if you get that 50-50 right, you get that big lead there. Unfortunately, maybe unlike some of the previous games we've watched today, the read didn't work this time. And this is the other end of the coin where, you're in your opponent's head, you think, you make this daring play, and this can happen too. All the respect in the world for being willing to go for that play there. It takes a lot of guts.
That's the classic best of one play too, the feint right out the gate and then get the free KO. Doesn't work out this time, probably worked out in some of the previous matches though. We are going to see the switch out for Gengar, takes a Rock Slide for its troubles, and a Will-O-Wisp coming out from Wash Rotom onto Scizor. This time Will-O-Wisp does connect, is going to burn Scizor, and Scizor is just not happy right now. It's taking an Intimidate, and a Will-O-Wisp does get to eat the opponent's Citrus Berry, which is going to be really nice for it. Scizor going to be able to heal up just a little bit, but taking a little bit of chip damage from the burn. Scizor has some tricks, just by taking that damage, it's not out, but it's definitely, you don't want that on the field right now.
Yeah, Scizor's, it might almost be better for Whitney for Scizor to feint now. It does get that Bug Bite off, though, so by preventing that Citrus Berry healing, it effectively does more damage than it could do with any attacks at this point. I do love seeing feint, by the way. I used it in Worlds in 2012. I just think it's a fantastic move. I wish that it was a little bit easier to fit on teams now. It's not too many Pokemon that learn it, but, man, if you can get the play with feint,
it just feels so good to get the feint play.
The potential there is just so much higher than with most moves in the game, but it's a very high risk, high reward.
And Scizor is going to think that it is risked enough, switches out for the Raichu. Ooh, Wash Rotom avoiding the Icy Wind, but it is going to connect with the Landorus, which is important. A lot of damage from that Mega Gengar now. Just about picks up the KO, but Earthquake coming out from Landorus, going to be able to deal significant damage to Whitney's team. Gengar, of course, losing its Levitate. That's a KO on Mega Gengar. Gets some good damage out with the Icy Wind, but not enough, and Raichu just barely hanging on with the Focus Sash. Rough break for Whitney there. And Hydro Pump coming out, going to be able to pick up that last 1 HP.
That's a really tough break for Whitney there. Trying to get back in the game. Landorus maybe is hoping that Landorus wouldn't use Earthquake there, fearing that it was a normal Gengar, which, it does. The potential is definitely there with the Charizard also in the team, right? So perhaps hoping for a Rock Slide there instead. But Landorus making the right play. And again, very close to making a great read to turn the game around, but the plays just aren't working out for Whitney this time.
Yeah, that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. You try to go for those plays. These are high risk, high reward, and unfortunately, the risk wins out. Landorus back on the field for Whitney. Going to be able to intimidate the Justin's Landorus, which is nice, but Landorus is already at a sliver of health. Going to protect just to keep it on the field a little bit longer, as we are going to see Rock Slide coming out from Whitney. Going to not deal damage to Landorus thanks to that Protect, but deal a good bit of damage to the Rotom. Oh, and the flinch coming out from Rotom, as Scizor is going to be able to deal a little bit more damage with that Bug Bite. Does it get the KO? Yes, just barely gets the KO onto that Wash Rotom. So a free KO for Whitney, still pretty deep in the hole, but you've got to make those calls to get the momentum back.
One thing about this year, where there's a Landorus, there's a way. Just keep firing off those Rock Slides, and maybe things will work out. With Metagross coming in here next to a Landorus of Justin's own, not too likely that things are going to work out here, but at least that one went down there. I do really like. This game could so easily have gone the other way. So I do hope the viewers keep that in mind. That, the best of one. You're willing to take risks like this. You can either win or lose really hard here. And I don't think this has been a badly played game by any regard by Whitney.
No, Whitney's definitely played this game well. Mega Metagross on the field for the Protect. Gets feinted by Scizor. See, Scizor can make the feint work. He's going to take some Life Orb damage, which compounded with that the burn, not going to make Scizor a very happy camper. Rock Slide from Whitney's Landorus, going to pick up Justin's Landorus. So we are at and Burn picking up Scizor. So we're at a respectable 2-1. But, Whitney just has to be praying for an ungodly amount of Rock Slide flinches right now.
Yeah, especially Heatran out here, too. You'd think that, Landorus can just bust out the Earthquake now. Everything's okay. But Choice Scarf is definitely the most common item on Landorus. And I'm pretty sure that's what's being used here. So not quite so simple, right? So gotta hope those rocks are really accurate today.
Yeah, here come the Rock Slides. It's going to be rough, but both of these steel types are going to be able to tank it pretty well. One flinch, and Heatran going for the substitute. Heatran's not going to play around. It's just going to hide behind its substitute doll and let Landorus throw its tantrum and throw rocks everywhere.
Yeah, Heatran wise to Landorus' tricks here. And rather than going for the Heat Wave, it gets that substitute up. That'll prevent it from flinching until it's broken and then hit again. So I believe Heatran can take a couple rock slides down.
Probably a few.
Yeah.
Rock slides are back out for Whitney's Landorus. Another flinch. Whitney was getting the flinches. If only Justin's Heatran hadn't hid behind that substitute. Heat Wave comes out, doesn't get the KO, does respectable damage, will get the KO next time that Heat Wave decides to connect. There is still the chance that Heat Wave could miss, and maybe Whitney pulls it off, but these are pretty low odds.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of clutch substitutes today. I wasn't expecting this to be one of them, but it's looking pretty wise.
Yeah, it looks like it's working out. There's the substitute fading. Will Heatran be able to connect? Doesn't matter. Metagross does not flinch. Once more, gets the Iron Head on Landorus, and that's the win for Justin. Solid W. Didn't fall for any of Whitney's tricks. You know, we talked about it. You might have trouble dealing with some of the tricks that a team like Whitney.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to see what it can do with this. You know, if anyone should be able to find a way to make this extremely frustrating to play against and very effective, it should be John.
Yeah, 100% that's going to be John. And we do see the leads, Lopunny out on the field immediately alongside that Azumarill, up against Ryan Brooker on the bottom of your screen, leading the Jellicent and Mawile. So Jellicent and Mawile instantly screams Trick Room to me.
Yeah, something else we kind of mentioned wanting to see more of today, right? We get this, the Trick Room here. I think Jellicent is a fantastic Pokemon this year. We kind of missed that when we were talking about water Pokemon before, but Jellicent's great. It can kind of do two different things where usually there's Trick Room either way at this point, but you know, it can do the Trick Room Water Spout thing and put out a bunch of damage on its own. It's a little bit weaker than 2 years ago just because Water Gym doesn't exist, but still a very threatening set. Or it can just be a little bit more offensive, use moves like Will-O-Wisp and Scald to kind of slowly burn the opponent down. It does have Recover available, so really strong and complicated Pokemon to play against.
And we do see the switch out from Mawile. It doesn't want to stick around with the Lopunny in favor of Amoonguss, which is going to take some damage from Fake Out, the Rocky Helmet dealing some back. But the big story here, Azumarill Belly Drum. Cuts its HP in half, but maximizes its attack, eats its Citrus Berry, now up to about 75%, up against Jellicent, who has used Trick Room. Now, typically, you look at Azumarill as being really great against Amoonguss because it can carry that Sap Sipper ability. But of course, using the Belly Drum, probably pretty unlikely, which makes that Amoonguss switch in pretty strong in Trick Room.
It's a great play there, I think, on Ryan's side. I mean, John's going to be reasonably happy by getting the free Belly Drum off. Usually, if you get a turn where you take that little damage, you get Belly Drum, like, oh, this game's over, I won.
Yeah.
But not really in this case. It can't do too much to either of these Pokemon. It's tough to do much against Jellicent here because there's a chance it has Water Absorb, so you can't just Aqua Jet willy-nilly. Amoonguss will certainly be slower in Trick Room on a team like this one than Azumarill and be able to get that Spore off. So John's going to have to switch Lopunny out here and try to bring Azumarill some help so he doesn't waste that Belly Drum to get off.
And we are going to see the switch out in favor of Ludicolo back on the field. Of course, the grass typing of Ludicolo helping out quite a bit against Amoonguss now. A Spore coming out from Amoonguss, though, will put the Azumarill to sleep as Water Spout coming out from that Jellicent. You know, Water Spout is a very powerful attack. You know, it's one of the most powerful water moves there is, but, you know, that doesn't really matter when you're up against a Ludicolo and an Azumarill.
Yeah, I mean, the whole concept of getting Trick Room up with Jellicent, taking no damage, just firing away Water Spouts next to an Amoonguss with Rage Powder seems great until instead of double ghost, this time we've got double water from John, which is not having any of that.
Yeah, and so Jellicent has to switch out in favor of the Conkeldurr. Giga Drain coming out from Amoonguss doing quite a bit more than that full-powered Water Spout was doing against Azumarill. Still asleep, though. And we are going to have to see if it can wake up this next turn. Ludicolo using Giga Drain, trying to get some damage off onto the Jellicent, gets some good damage off onto Conkeldurr, and instantly heals up with the entire Water Spout. So it's really going to come down to if this Azumarill, which got the turn 1 Belly Drum for free, will it be able to do anything now that it's asleep?
Yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see a Rage Powder here trying to avoid the potential of an Aqua Jet getting that quick knockout there. Conkeldurr's actually like Jellicent, another Pokemon that's really interesting because they get two different sets really well. The Assault Vest set we saw last year is very popular. It's still very strong defensively, but also it can use Life Orb like it was doing at the end of 2013, and well, it became close to the strongest Pokemon in the format because of it.
Yeah, and you are correct. The Amoonguss is going to Rage Powder. We did see Azumarill wakes up but uses Protect instead. Conkeldurr, though, goes for the Hammer Arm onto Ludicolo. One-hit KO. Ludicolo faints, and Conkeldurr, with one swift attack, does what Jellicent couldn't.
Yeah, one of the best Pokemon in the format. If you can get Trick Room up and just let Conkeldurr just fire away, there's few things stronger than it. Azumarill also in a really complicated position here too, because it's got that belly drum, so it doesn't want to switch out. But since Amoonguss has both Rage Powder and Rocky Helmet, there isn't a whole lot that.
It's basically a case of stop hitting yourself at this point. I mean, Azumarill with that red HP, you have to think that John Hu is thinking, Togekiss is out now, I can use my own redirection, get some damage off. But if, Amoonguss is going to be able to tank enough from Azumarill to make it a threat. So as you can see, Azumarill is protecting, actually everyone protecting except for the Amoonguss this turn, trying to wait out the Trick Room here.
Yeah, big play by John's in there. I mean,
big protect plays.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, we didn't think real hard about it, but getting that second protect off with Azumarill there, at least he gets rid of the Trick Room. He's in a slightly better position now. Azumarill still has all the same problems it had before, and but at least Conkeldurr's gone back to being very slow instead of very quick, and the threat of Amoonguss just sporing everything is a little bit reduced. But man, I mean, Azumarill still is probably at some point just going to have to fire off a play rough, except that it's going down, and just hope that Togekiss and Lopunny can close the game out, which is going to be tough because neither of those Pokemon are going to be able to do much to Jellicent.
Well, of note though, the Togekiss and the Lopunny Togekiss does threaten both the Pokemon currently on the field. So follow me instead, going from both of them. Follow me from Togekiss and Rage Powder from the Amoonguss. Of course, Azumarill is going to have to use that return, gets the KO onto the Amoonguss, but does faint to the Rocky Helmet. Not enough HP, is going to go down, takes down Amoonguss with it, but like you mentioned, now Jellicent has basically free reign, and Conkeldurr's Ice Punch, not going for, obviously predicting some kind of priority like a Mach Punch, goes for the Ice Punch instead, deals a whole heck of a lot of damage to Togekiss. And when your bulky redirector is sitting at red and you're at 2 Pokemon to 3, you're not having a good time.
Yeah, that is not good. We do see the Maul coming out here, so that's another Pokemon that Lopunny really doesn't want to face down.
No.
A very difficult spot for John here. At least we see one interesting trend, because we'll see both the redirectors, the Rocky Helmet here rather than Citrus Berry. That's it. Interesting switch this year, but man, Conkeldurr's power this game just been amazing. Only 2 attacks off there, and did a full health bar and nearly all of another. Just it's a Pokemon that we haven't seen too much of this year, and last year just completely vanished in favor of more defensive sets, partially because some of its tricks weren't available. But we've certainly seen why this may have been the best Pokemon in 2013.
Yeah, Conkeldurr definitely coming back strong here. Conkeldurr was one of my favorite Pokemon. I remember using that Confusion Persum Swagger team with Conkeldurr as a focal point. But who doesn't like to see Conkeldurr on the field? Lopunny, which is going to Mega Evolve, gets itself some nice new tricks, but also Mega Evolving is Mawile, which even if that Conkeldurr manages to go down, Mega Mawile on the field up against a very weak Togekiss and Lopunny, not going to be huge for them. Fake out onto the Mawile, 1-hit KO onto that Lopunny. Yeah, not too thrilled to see the Conkeldurr out.
Yeah, I mean, not too much you can do when Conkeldurr's going to do that.
Yeah, Air Slash from Togekiss is going to be able to deal with the Conkeldurr, so is going to get another KO, but Jellicent comes in, can hope for some flinches, but, I mean...
And 2 Pokemon's going to be tough.
2 Pokemon with Togekiss and red HP.
I think Conkeldurr's going to faint a hero in this one, because almost 3 KOs. It's kind of funny. In this format full of Mega Pokemon, full of legendary Pokemon, it's Conkeldurr that puts off the best defensive performance we've seen all day. Yeah,
Conkeldurr definitely coming up strong. Iron Head from Mawile connects. You can see the handshakes. That's going to be a win for Ryan Brooker. And John Hu goes down. Ryan Brooker takes the W, moves on, continues to play. Now going into, I believe that's 7-1 for Ryan now.
Yeah, quite a tournament performance, right? We should note, too, for John's end, I believe about a third of the players who finish with 2 losses will make it on to the top 16. So he's not necessarily done yet, especially when you get your second loss at this point in the tournament.
The new fairy typing and some of the other changes have made Dragon not anywhere near as dominant as it once was. But as I say that, Salamence takes the field. Our first Salamence of the day, I believe, alongside Heatran up against Suicune and Zapdos. Of course, that's Drew on the bottom of your screen and Leonard on the top with that Salamence and Heatran, and Drew with the Suicune and Zapdos. Really interesting leads here. Very bulky on Drew's side, and Leonard seemed to be a little bit more catered towards a heavy offense style.
Yeah, a little bit, though. I mean, certainly Pokemon can take a decent chunk of hits here. We do see Salamence leading here, almost always a Mega now. This is really not a good situation for Mega Salamence. It's a good conservative lead on the other side here. You know, with Salamence typically used to try to take advantage of that Aerolate ability, and this is not a good team to start firing flying type attacks off into. Zapdos, very bulky, resists it. Suicune, reasonably bulky, likely to carry an ice type attack. So tough spot for Salamence here. I'm expecting to see it protect and to see Leonard try to get in better position.
Well, we do see Salamence is Mega evolving to be a Mega Salamence. And then we will have Clefable switching out for that Heatran as well. Here comes Salamence. Salamence is going to go for the Dragon Dance, gets the attack and speed boost, while Zapdos Thunder Wave is going to be able to connect with the Salamence, really negating a lot of the power of that Dragon Dance there. Salamence now paralyzed, maybe unable to move, as Suicune gets off that Tailwind, as we've been seeing over and over again from that Pokemon.
Yeah, a very daring play there. I'm really surprised to see Salamence go for the Dragon Dance in that situation. There's so many things that could go wrong there. I mean, the paralysis of the Tailwind actually isn't that bad. It certainly removes the speed advantage that Salamence would otherwise be enjoying. One of the fastest Megas. But, you know, Zapdos frequently carries the Ice-type hidden power. Suicune almost always carries one of Icy Wind and Ice Beam, sometimes both. So, man, just to attack, or to Dragon Dance, I guess, in the face of that, fearlessly...
pretty gutsy play.
Yeah, gutsy play, and it kind of pays off here because unless one of these Pokemon are using a spread move, someone's going to be able to use that improved attack and dish out some damage.
Yeah, and with Clefable on the field, able to redirect those attacks. Follow Me comes out from Clefable, tanks the Thunderbolt, tanks the Ice Beam. Clefable is so bulky, it can be on these, but a critical hit from Suicune, and the freeze! Oh, that's a really unfortunate break, but fortunately, Leonard planning for... Oh, never mind. I thought that was going to be a Lumberry, but instead it's just the Citrus Berry. So Frozen Clefable up against this Suicune and the Zapdos. Salamence does get off its attack onto Suicune, deals some good damage, but it's going to heal up with the Citrus Berry as well. So now Clefable, Salamence really needed that redirect to be able to stay relevant up against these two Pokemon, and it's frozen.
Yeah, really tough spot for Leonard. Salamence getting to beat off some of its frustration that turn after seeing its partner get frozen, but that just really, really... bad for it.
Yeah.
I think this is sort of a troublesome position to begin with because once Clefable got knocked out, the speed control was going to be a big issue, but boy, after that freeze.
Yeah, Clefable stays frozen, not going to be able to get the Follow Me, trying for it. Ice Beam from Suicune is going to be able to connect. Salamence survives, but is paralyzed. Oh, Leonard not catching any of the breaks here. Clefable still frozen, Salamence still paralyzed. Did survive, but that's just unfortunate.
Yeah, it just Leonard just can't catch a break in this one. You know, I think even if there wasn't for that freeze, losing Clefable and then you're trading one for one and then losing Salamence, the next turn would have not been a super advantageous position. But this is a lot worse than what I would have expected to happen here, and we'll likely see a quick 4-2 advantage.
Yeah, another freeze from Clefable, not going to be able to withstand another Thunderbolt, is going to go down, while Suicune using the Scald on Salamence, just in case there's a switch. Going to be able to pick up the KO there as well. So as you mentioned, quick 4-2 in favor of Drew. Yeah,
I mean, I guess at some level, you know, taking that Thunder Wave for free in the first turn, like, there's consequences to that, but that punish shouldn't have been quite as hard as it was. I feel a little bad for Leonard there. I mean, he's still going to have to try to play his way out of this one. We haven't seen his last Pokemon yet, and it's Virizion, so he does have some opportunity to make plays here. Virizion could easily deal with Suicune there. Zapdos may be able to put a kink in that plan depending on its speed and the moves it's carrying, but you know, there's a good chance of the double target. Leonard can knock out Zapdos instead, but we actually see a taunt.
Yeah, taunt coming out from Virizion onto Zapdos, trying to block the Thunder Wave. Does block that Thunder Wave, while Heatran is going to substitute. We're seeing a lot of substitutes today. Scald from Suicune, though, is going to be able to connect right with that substitute and break it right open. So a little bit of a wash turn there for everyone. Heatran loses a little bit of HP. Virizion taunts the Zapdos, unable to get the Thunder Wave off. So the momentum is pretty decent now. You don't have to worry about that paralysis threat. And Virizion's still threatening the Suicune.
Yeah, I like that play by Leonard a lot. I mean, you have to get that taunt off because I think Virizion getting paralyzed is just going to end this game. And by using substitute there, he's kind of hoping that Suicune would protect or switch and just get something out of it. Not necessarily even predicting that he would, but just when you're losing like this, you've got to do something to try to get yourself back in the game and just hope your opponent will make the play that enables you to get back into it.
And Virizion is going to try to get the attack off on Suicune. Close combat, not quite enough. Will the Heat Wave be enough to pick it up as well? Probably not, but maybe close. 6 HP left on Suicune, using the Ice Beam while Zapdos Thunderbolted Heatran, dealing good damage to Virizion. Not quite the KO. Another critical hit there, plus the defense drop from close combat. Dealing a good amount of damage there.
Hey, why not a critical hit? Poor Virizion there, using close combat there, probably just hoping for a switch on Suicune there. I wouldn't have probably expected one, but again, at this point, you're just kind of hoping that your opponent gives you some help because
yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, you can. What you're gonna do is you're gonna taunt your own Pokemon and prevent it from using its substitute. Virizion, not being quite a good team player, does go down to the Zapdos. Scald from Suicune coming out, going to be able to pick up the KO on that Heatran, and that's a clean win for Drew. Gets the 4-0, I believe.
Yeah.
A little help with it, but he'll take the win.
Yeah.
A win's a win's a win's a win.
Yeah, certainly a strange match out there. We actually don't even see 2 of the Pokemon from that side of the field, but you know, those matches happen sometimes. I think we've probably all been in them where it just seems like no matter what you do, doesn't matter. The game is going to do what the game wants to do.